Hey folks, it's KR King of D&D Homebrew talking today about surprising your players with encounters and NPCs and storyline situations, things that happen that they don't expect. But it also correlates to two things. One, when your players do something that surprises you and you have to react to that. But also my overall concept in terms of homebrewing a sandbox D&D campaign, which is you don't have to figure out everything in advance. You can let it evolve as the players move through your world. You stay a little bit ahead. But also, when you do something that surprises them, that's out of the ordinary, that they didn't expect, they'll often go in a direction you didn't expect as a GM. And then when they do something just, it doesn't have to be totally off the wall, but it's just when you're setting it up, we all have expectations. Oh, this is what the players will do. But those pesky players, they tend to do what we don't expect. And how that surprise, you use that to kind of fuel your own creativity, your own storytelling, where your campaign goes somewhere that you didn't expect. So I'm going to start with the easy one, sort of, which is creating something that surprises your player, an encounter, an NPC, some storyline. And, it can be as simple as the players encounter orcs, the standard sort of wilderness encounter, a party of orcs comes along. And the minute they see the players, they run away. They go. Or they disappear even. They're just gone. Well, let's start with a runaway because that's more obvious. So maybe they're scared. Maybe they're under orders. Hey, if you meet any humanoids or whatever, we're on some mission, just run off. We're not attacking. Or maybe you don't even know why, but what the players are confronted with is the orcs ran off. Do they take chase? And do the orcs all run in separate directions? How fast are they going? Do they know the terrain such that you decide they get away? Or do the players hesitate? Do they think, hey, this might be a trap, and such that the orcs are gone? And what happens is, you may have just decided, I don't want to have this simple, I want something a little bit different. And then if the players investigate, if they use, say, survival in a 5e type situation, you have a ranger or something, or someone who can track, is there a village somewhere else that the orcs are at? Did they just, beat a caravan, let's just say, they've got all their booty and they're wounded and they don't want to do another one. And the players come across this caravan somewhere. Maybe they dragged it off the road somewhere. But you see what I'm getting at? Like, if they don't go after this, they're surprised. Oh my God, they ran away. But we've got something to do. We're going to just keep going. You either didn't have an encounter that you didn't want to have, or you set something up like this caravan thing or something different, this Orcan village where they sent out some people and they're on a raid or they're on some mission and they go back. Or they simply, as I said, disappear. Because here's another one. If orcs disappear, what's going on here? What is the situation? They literally disappeared into thin air. Now, you can just have this as flavor if the players don't pursue this. But if they do, you might want to have a little preparation. There is some sort of device, let's say, some left here by someone, an illusionary device. It creates illusions, and this was a reflection of that. It was something where it's an image from the past somehow that's being projected. It's from another plane. I mean, I'm getting kind of crazy here, right? I'm just saying that I have this encounter. I'm surprising the players, and these orcs are an appearance of some monster, and it literally just disappears. Now, that's an extreme example. But what that does is, because this can occur in a fantasy wilderness type setting, there is magic. There are things that are strange that just appear. And you're doing this. You're creating something that surprises them, that intrigues them, that they didn't expect, and that maybe you don't even know why these monsters disappear. And maybe it's just because literally, oh my God, we've got a half an hour to go. I roll random monsters. I could just blow that off and have them get to town. But I'll have something strange, something bizarre, or something that leads to the village over here that they sent a raiding party, or the caravan that they just, raided, and the players come across this and there's a few survivors or something. But I'm creating a storyline. I'm creating a mystery that I don't have to get into right now. And I guarantee you, when you do this kind of thing, it intrigues the players. It makes your world not just encounter, roll initiative, kill the monsters, get to the goal, meet, go to the dungeon, get the item, kill a bunch of monsters, go here, go there. Suddenly there are things occurring. The orcs just disappeared. And they're going to start questioning. They're going to ask people, we went along the road, or we were going through this mountain pass, and this happened. They disappeared. Have you ever heard of such a thing? And again, what is your decision on this? Because we're building a sandbox homebrewed campaign. I'm not necessarily got that figured out. It's always better if you do. As I said, there's some nexus point between planes. There's some illusion device. There's something. Maybe one of the orcs, the orc chieftain has found something that allows, mass teleport. Now, that would be a powerful item, so that you're probably going to have, some explanation for this. Maybe they're not really orcs at all. They're disguised as orcs, some illusion thing where they disappeared. I mean, I can just go on and on, right? But notice it isn't just orcs from the monster manual that appear, and we fight them, and the players, depending on what their level is and how many orcs, or if they have somebody with them, or, all that kind of stuff. It's just a battle, rolling dice. It's something different. Same thing along the lines if you run into orcs and they're a village of orcs and they're lawful good. Again, however you run alignments, however you run orcs, I've said this many times before, I tend to think of them as like Vikings. Their culture is very much warfare. It honors warfare strength. They have no quarter with their enemies. They expect no quarter from them, this kind of thing. And the Vikings terrorized, Europe, for a couple hundred years. But we don't look at them necessarily as inherently evil, right? But let's just say that you run across, you remember in Game of Thrones, I think it was the Hound, one of these figures, I don't want to do spoilers, but he ran across this guy was organizing this village along peaceful ways and whatever, and he started helping them out, and I won't do any spoilers on it. But what if you ran into a group of orcs where they had some leader, or they had like-minded orcs that were literally lawful good? They had goodness in their heart. They wanted to follow rules. You could say they were outcasts of Orcan society, if that's how you play orcs. The Viking who finds God, or whatever it would be, if it finds, the idea of being a humble servant of good, and they have these orcs. How do the players react to that? It's totally surprising. And is it unrealistic? Well, unless you're playing orcs as essentially evil, why should it be? Why shouldn't orcs be like any other sentient creature? The only ones we have as examples are human beings, and they come in all kinds of, alignments. They act in all sorts of ways. Now, could you have gnolls that were lawful good? Well, if you look in the book, I don't think so. Right? The way they were created they're just marauders that wander the world and the material plane or wherever and just cause havoc, right? But what if you had one? What if a gnoll or a group of gnolls came across some artifact, some item, some random demigod that thought it was humorous to change them into lawful good gnolls? Because here's the thing, the lawful good orcs, how would they be, how would the other orcs accept them or treat them or whatever? Imagine the gnolls. Imagine if you had a group of gnolls that somehow were transformed, if you're going to say that they are inherently chaotic evil, transformed into lawful good. And the players run into them, and the gnolls entreaty with them and talk to them, and suddenly it's obvious that, my God, these gnolls are different than any other gnolls, right? This is something unique, and the gnolls know that the society at large knows their reputation. They know their fellow gnolls. They might need the players' help. They might not understand what has occurred if you're, again, taking this essentialist view of what gnolls are about, and they want to figure out why is this, and they actually like being lawful and living under order and having qualities of goodness. Or maybe there's one or two that miss their days of just rampaging and whatever, but now their alignment's been changed. If you say that it's, fixed or, again, we get into all sorts of metaphysical and philosophical questions about D&D. What we're doing here is we're surprising the players. We're bringing up something that they would never expect. I have an earlier video about changing the Cyclops, and I talked about why couldn't there be an Albert Einstein of Cyclopses that's a genius and realizes why are we all fighting each other because, they're solitary and all this except the two heads, the two heads of this super Cyclops are, super smart, however you want to do this. And I said in there, why not? Why do Cyclops have to be this stupid, brutish, boring creature? I said in another one about the flump. Why is the flump, they're just good and they float around and they take something in and, why couldn't there be an evil flump that for whatever reason is bitter or resentful? They were under the sway of mind flayers, or something like that, and it turned them. I don't know. The idea was that it's surprising. It's something different. Because when we read a book, we want a surprise. Now, the truth is stranger than fiction, right? Events happen in the real world that in a fictional world, we're just like, well, that's ridiculous, right? So in a fictional, in kind of like D&D, if you have something that's total, if you have gnolls that are going to be lawful good, then you have to have some explanation. There's some artifice, not just, well, I don't know, they're just lawful good. Why can't that be? Well, because, again, we have the rules and we have a certain system set up. Again, you can just do that, but it's better to have some kind of explanation. And you can create the lawful good gnolls not knowing exactly what it is, but there they are. The players have to deal with it. The players are going to come across this and wonder what is going on. Is it something in this area? Is there something they question the gnolls? Is there some experience that they can recount? And maybe the gnolls just don't know, or they said they just woke up as though from a long dream and here they were, and that's it. And so the players now have this situation, and I guarantee you, maybe they just go, okay, whatever, the gnolls, I don't care about that, and they wander off at the worst. But even then, they're like, what's going on here? What is this? Is this a pattern of this? Are there evil things that are being transformed by good? Could we possibly run into something we traditionally think of good, and they're now rampaging the world, sort of like the zombie apocalypse or something? All right, the second one I said was where the players surprise you as a GM. They do something, and then you're going to react to this in such a way that they're going to see that, their initiative or they're doing something that was unexpected, caused things to happen, changed up the results. And, you might want to try to always make it look like I knew exactly that you were going to do that as a GM. You don't want to show the man behind the curtain. You don't want to see the wheels turning where you're changing things because of the way they're doing things. And this is important because they'll try to influence you. They'll try to come up with stuff to get you to change something. But as an example, I had this situation where players were in this desert and there was this magic oasis, and the oasis had this force field over it that protected them from this blue dragon that kind of ran this desert, right? And this blue dragon, part of it was this power source of this temple. Again, it's one of these long stories, but the players destroyed the power source, and then the blue dragon flew by. They had heard about this. They'd never seen it. This gargantuan adult blue dragon flies over this temple and sees it. And the players were about to leave. They were going to pass through plants. They had a druid that was going to scry and have them pass through plants. But one of the characters, he had a sending spell to communicate with this druid, and he sended a message to this blue dragon. And what he said was, our group is the one that destroyed this magic. Then the blue dragon didn't like this ancient temple because it was interfering with her. It was a she, her influence over this desert. And he communicated this in 25 words, just spontaneously. So what do? I was totally surprised. So the dragon flies over, goes to the oasis. He realizes, the magic is gone. Now, some of the players are like, we need to get out of here right now. We need to call the druid, get the hell out of here. The druid would scry, see them, throw the spell. You got a round to go through. They were all around this big tree. So I just thought, what's the player going to do? And he said, no, I'm going to communicate. So the dragon lands, and it says, who is? And it says the name of the player, Fred. And Fred, who said it's me. And now I'm thinking as the GM, I'm totally surprised by this. So the dragon doesn't just start breathing on them because he says, I'm the one that got rid of this thing. I'm the one that's going to give you this oasis back. I just wanted you to know I did this for you. And a little metagaming of knowing the blue dragons are super vain and all this stuff. But they ended up doing a mission for this blue dragon, lawful evil, so they were very careful. But the blue dragon didn't just kill them because the blue dragon appreciated, one, they got rid of this magic temple that was preventing her from using this oasis. And two, that they were powerful enough to do this, and then that they communicated. They said, hey, look at what I did for you. So they did this mission. It's another long story, and it all turned out okay. But I was surprised, and I reacted to that surprise. I had no intent. I just thought they were going to. The minute they saw that blue dragon, they're going to go through the plant and they just saw it because they did this thing, and I had a certain amount of time that went by before the blue dragon realized that the magic was gone from the temple. So this is the thing. When your players do something, the classic is they're going to have a battle at an encampment or something, and they try to sneak in. Or they try to charm someone. So another thing is they try to infiltrate. I had some players, they had these brooches from this gang that they had killed a bunch of these gang They were bandits with higher level people, and they had these brooches. And so they decided instead of just attacking, they would put these brooches on and pretend that they had been sent to these bandits to get something. So they had to use, their diplomacy and intimidation, persuasion, I can't remember, whatever it was. And the thing was, I wasn't sure. This kind of came out of the blue, and I had to decide what would these bandits do. And I think in the end they used intimidation kind of tactics. Hey, what are you screwing around? We need to go see the boss, or you need to give us this information that's going to the boss. They got something out of these bandits, and then they just left them. They didn't just kill them, right? Well, now the bandits they're going to find out from their boss, what's going on? I didn't send anybody, and they're going to be, right? They're going to be pissed or they're going to be whatever. But in fact, those guys got in trouble, the boss. And then later the players went to this boss figure, this bandit, said, yeah, that was us. And we did this because you need better people. And we might be the people. And these were like neutral, chaotic good type thing. These guys weren't necessarily evil. I played bandits, they can run the gamut. Usually not lawful good, but unless they're sort of Robin Hood types, right? But anyway, it was something that surprised me. And that's the thing. Surprise in a story, surprise in a film, a twist ending, if it's well done, is one of the most satisfying. Years ago, I remember just not really knowing what it was. I saw The Sixth Sense at a movie. I think I had a friend say, oh, you got to go see that movie. But of course, they wouldn't say anything about it. I saw that movie, and the twist end worked for me. And I told other people, go see that movie, right? Because I loved the twist ending. That guy in his later movies have had these twists that I'm not so sure about. But the thing is it was very satisfying because it made internal sense. And this is the thing, with an organic campaign, the bandits are fooled, they're intimidated, they give something important away, they go to the boss. I've got to decide now, what does the boss do? The players then go to it. And it's going to make internal sense because I'm surprised. Oh, they did this. Now I got to react. What would the boss do? What would their reaction be? And you could have it just be like, you screwed me over. I kill the bandits that betrayed me, and then I go after these players and I want to kill them. And we're just going to have a fight. You can do that. Because you don't want to be constantly like playing some tricky, everything is different, everything is a surprise, right? Because if everything's a surprise, your world seems crazy, it's not motivated. And also, if the players are always able to do this kind of stuff, sometimes when they go and try to trick the bandits go, we know your guys aren't our party, and they just attack. I mean, you can just roll that, the players roll badly on their intimidate, however you want to do that. It doesn't always have to be some unexpected, crazy thing. And you can do this with storylines as well. So one time, I had this witch, and she wanted to infiltrate her way into this power structure, and she had this item where if she killed someone and transferred her body into the corpse of this person where it seemed like she was dead. And I'm not going into enough detail, but the thing was that the players, when the witch did this, they kill the witch. They didn't realize that the witch had been transferred, and now the young girl, the princess, was the witch. So they went through this elaborate thing. There was this wedding, and the witch got married to the prince, and she was going to become the queen. And then the real queen died mysteriously, poisoned by the witch. And slowly but surely, the players figured out what had happened, and they had to figure out a way to prove it. And they had to go back to where they buried the witch, and they did all sorts of things. But when they realized that princess was actually the witch, they did some stuff, and they figured out through something she said or something she knew, oh my God, we facilitated this witch taking the body of the princess and marrying the prince, and now she's queen. And now she has control. And now she's bringing in, her minions and her advisor. And I think even her former lovers, I can't remember. But you know how that goes. When you suddenly realize that you've been totally fooled in a D&D storyline, and it all makes sense retroactively. That's a great moment. You've surprised the players. So what you want to do is think about ways that you can either come up with monsters or NPCs that are against the grain, or you can think of storylines like the witch thing where it's not what it appears and the players get surprised. And then the other thing is when you react to the players, when they outwit your initial idea or they do things differently as players do, you're surprised. And just like players, you motivate yourself. Okay, I'm going to take that surprise from the players and I'm going to come up with something really interesting that I hadn't expected in this storyline, like the dragon landing, meeting with them, being impressed with what they did. They were flattering her. Okay, what's the dragon going to do? And I created a storyline, and it was really fun, really memorable for the players. And it came because they surprised me. And if you like what you've seen, please subscribe to my channel. Always looking for more. I'd love to hear any comments you have about when the players have surprised you or when you've surprised the players, how that worked out. And of course, most importantly, keep playing an RPG game, whichever one you choose, and tell somebody else about it.